All right, for the students of Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Gavin Harrison accepted our invitation to our show. Gavin, welcome to my humble podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Gavin, let's go back to the beginning. How did you start in music to begin with?
How did I start in music? Well, my father was a jazz trumpet player. And so I was always around, my father and his friends, and I would see my father play in certain situations, and I just loved music. So it wasn't much of a leap of faith for me to do that. I tried to play the trumpet, but it was too hard. But I was very coordinated. I was in dance school when I was 6. And so I took to the drums. It just felt like the natural thing to do.
I got it. And were you in any band in high school?
Yeah, I mean, I played with friends in bands in high school, mostly just rock, punk bands. This is in the 70s. It wasn't really like the music that I was listening to, but my friends wanted to play kind of punk rock, so that was the first wave of punk rock in the mid-late 70s.
I got you. So eventually you finished high school. Any pressure for your family, for your dad, your mom about, hey, forget about music. It's very difficult to make a living. You're not going to make any money. Go to school, become a lawyer, a doctor, that kind of stuff? Or you were kind of free to pick your own path and then follow your passion?
Yeah, really the opposite of that. My mother and father were so supportive of what I did. My dad used to work in a nightclub in London. It was like a Las Vegas style cabaret club, and they would have visiting artists who would perform for a month. Like, I don't know, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Perry Como, lots and lots and lots of stars. And some of them would bring their piano player or their drummer or maybe the rhythm section. And my dad would say, right, okay, on Monday, I'm going to take you off school. I will write a note to say that you're not well because you have to come and see this drummer play at the rehearsal of at the nightclub in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And one time there was a singer called Pearl Bailey was going to sing for a month, and her husband was playing drums, Louis Belson. So I spent the afternoon sitting next to Louis Belson and watching him play, and he was such a lovely man, and he was so generous with his time with me. So that was one example of how supportive my father was. He could see from a very early age that I was absolutely 100% committed to being a musician. So he would take me to gigs. He would take me to the BBC, where he worked many times, and I would sit next to the drummer and I would look at the music, and it was a fantastic learning experience. In those days, of course, there wasn't internet, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't even video cassette.
Sure.
So the only chance you had to see a drummer was maybe on TV, but they never really showed you the drummer for very long, or in real life. So I could sit next to these drummers, watch these drummers play, and really have an amazing education in my childhood of watching my father work with some of these drummers, some amazing drummers. And they were all very supportive. When my dad said, hey, look, this is my 9-year-old son, he plays drums. Oh, come and sit next to me on the drums. And they would give me their sticks and tell me lots of things. It was incredible.
Good for you. What an upbringing. Good for you, man. And then did you end up going to, or did you take drum lessons at all with some people, or pretty much you went on your own, or combination of both?
Okay, when I got to about 10, my father got me a drum teacher, a guy called Joe Hodson, And Joe was a show drummer in London. He worked in the theatres, and he was quite strict, quite old school. He was quite a modern thinker. He wanted me to play match grip, where you hold the sticks the same instead of the grip that you see something like this, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
He said, no. This is the future. Don't play like me. Play like this. And so I had lessons with Joe for maybe 3 or 4 years, and he taught me to read. And that was quite a good start. Anyway.
Good for you, man. Good for you. At the beginning of your life, you end up working as a freelancer, session drummer at the time, right? You play with band like with Level 42, of course, Porcupine Tree, that we'll talk about, King Crimson, Sam Brown, Go West, Iggy Pop, and so on and so forth. Those are very big names. That was kind of common in the day where you wouldn't join a band necessarily. You will become a session musician and work 1 week with Arctic X in this studio. The next week they need you for 3-track for that and so on and so forth. That it was kind of common at the time, right?
Yeah, in the 80s and 90s, I worked a lot as a session musician or musician for hire. I would play on sessions. I would go on tours. I was just trying to do anything I could to make a living playing the drums, is the honest truth. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a really nice job, a really nice band, or a really great session. And, things, you slowly build a reputation where you become someone that maybe people want to hire. So I did a lot of work like that through the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s.
I got you. And sometime you were hired to play drum in a band. I suppose you don't like it or you have no interest in the music, but hey, they pay you whatever, 200 quid a day to whatever to play drums in track 357. You need to do it, right? So you need to make a living, right?
Yeah, that's the definition, really, of being a professional musician,
right,
is to do that and make money. Now, you don't always get the jobs you really want, but the most important thing at that point in your career is to stay alive professionally and to just try to make a living. So, if someone asks you to do a session or go on tour, you're not picky. You just do it because you need the money. And that is the life of a professional musician. If you're working in a studio, you're going on tour, you're playing in an orchestra pit, in the theatres in London, you just try to stay busy and you just try to make money.
Right, gotcha. Another time, when you were hired as a session, you will bring your drum kit, the one that you have at the time, or in a studio is pretty much set up. The band will have, or the studio will have a particular drum kit, and then you play with that one, or you needed to bring your own thing?
No, I always used my own drums.
Okay.
So you always needed a big car. A really big, long car to get all your drums in, to drive to a studio in London or go to a rehearsal or take your drums to the truck or bus, which was ever going on the tour. Yeah, you use your own equipment.
I got it. So eventually, out of playing in all these studios in London, other cities, you end up joining in 2002, one of my favorite bands, Porcupine Tree, right?
That's right. I mean, when it came around, I was friends. I knew Richard Barbieri from about 1990. We'd both worked together with an Italian artist called Alice. And so I got to know Richard a little bit. and Steve Jansen and Mick Karn, the guys of the band Japan.
And David Silver and all those guys.
Yeah, which I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
And so in 2002, when Chris Maitland left Porcupine Tree, he was the previous drummer, it was about 3 weeks before they had to go to New York to record the album In Absentia. And Richard said to the other guys in the band, look, I know a drummer, Gavin. He's a good session drummer. He can play this stuff. He'll be great. And so they just hired me as a session drummer. And I went to New York and I made the album. And then I came home again. And then I thought it was a great record and I really liked the music. And then a few months later, they said, look, we want to go on tour. Would you consider joining the band? And I said, okay, well, I've never been a band member before. What does that mean? And what it meant was a percentage of the publishing deal and an equal split of whatever profit we make on tour, which was 0. So I wasn't used to going on tour for 6 weeks and coming home with nothing, but that was my initial experience of joining Porcupine Tree. Okay, especially in America, we were really nowhere in America. We played to 30 people a night. In Europe, the band was already more established, and it was a bigger band. So we did make a small amount of money in Europe at that time. But after 23 years of being a session musician, a musician for hire, I thought, well, let's try it. Let's see what it's like to be in a band. Let me see what that experience is like.
Ooh. I imagine that it was hard to convince, I don't know, your girlfriend, wife at the time, to go disappear for 6 weeks and don't come back with no money at all. I don't know. I suppose that's the, what you need to, the price you need to pay at the beginning to, well, you were known as a musician. You could have stayed in London, going from record label to record label, album to album, make a deal, or venture into the touring scene. And I imagine that it wasn't an easy decision because it wasn't that Porcupine was well known in the United States. It wasn't the case, right? So you kind of gamble and say, well, I like get along well with this guy. I know Richard Riviere, and hey, 6 weeks and then we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we made much money for the first couple of years that I was in the band, but I could see the long-term potential of being in a band and being a band member and being involved in the writing of the music, being involved in the production, the recording, the promotion. It's a lot more satisfying playing songs that you worked on than just playing someone else's hits for an artist that you don't really care about. Yeah. So, it was a gamble, but I could see that it was something that was worth pursuing, and that I could see a long-term investment in it. Let's put it like that.
Gotcha. You mentioned Japan. Did you ever work with David Sylvian at all, or?
I've never met David Sylvian, no.
Yeah. He kind of disappeared. He's not touring at all or releasing new music. So it's one of my heroes. I really like Japan. I have interviewed a couple of people from Japan as well, and great band. And of course, David Sylvian is a great musician. So you end up joining in 2000, and then of course in Absentia, Dead Queen, Fear for a Blank Planet, The Incident, and so forth over the year. And then that band down the road became, a very, very popular band, so with Richard, Steven Wilson, and so forth. But I imagine that it was hard to sort of break in to make it here in the United States.
It took a lot of effort and a lot of money. We had a record company at the time paid us tour support,
Yeah.
And we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just to tour small clubs, because we lost about $5,000 a day being on tour. And we certainly never made $5,000 a day ever in the early days. So the record company paid tour support. Of course, we had to pay it all back one day. You never really get anything for free from a record company. It always goes against your royalties, so you just don't see any royalties for years and years and years and years. I think maybe In Absentia and Deadwing, I don't think we saw any royalties for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years before we saw any money, because you got so much to recoup.
Right. You were in the red for many years, right? Until kind of break even, right? Or at least,
Absolutely. But we were starting by 2008, 2009, 2010, we were starting to get somewhere. By 2010, we played Radio City Music Hall in New York, and we were starting to play some concerts to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. So it was a very long investment arc, let's say, and it finally kind of paid off after about 5 or 6 years.
Got it. Perfect. Right. And then you stay with them until, I think you remain a permanent member until the hiatus that was announced in 2010, and then again in 2021, right? When the band announced the return playing together with the release of the album, Closure Continuation, I believe it was called, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, we didn't really announce a hiatus. When we finished the tour in 2010, we didn't split up, and we didn't say, we're going to go on hiatus for 12 years. Actually, we carried on writing, and we wrote, every 6 months or once a year or once every 9 months, we would get together and write material. And it wasn't until we got to 2020 that we realized, actually, we have got enough music now for a new album. And with the pandemic coming and everyone being at home, it gave us and all the touring getting cancelled, it gave us the time we needed to finish that record. And I think we released it in 2021, and then we went on a tour in 2022.
I got you. Nowadays, nowadays it's a lot easier to write, compose, and engineer music at home with a $2,000 computer. You can do it, and most folks have like a studio at home. So it's very rare that, like it used to be in the day, you will go to a studio to record your drums parts. Nowadays you can swap file back and forth. Hey, what you need, here's the piano, here the guitar, and the lyrics. We'll put it there. I want you to play drum here in minute 1 to minute 30, right? And then, I didn't like that much. Can you change that? The upbeat, the tempo, and so on. And you go back and forth. It is that the kind of the rule now. I mean, and I imagine that this kind of studios that used to be very expensive, you pay for the day, I don't know, $1,000 now, kind of disappearing. That's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, those studios still exist, or some of the studios still exist. And depends on the size of the band. If you want to go to an expensive studio to make your album, the truth is not many people buy your music anymore. The vast majority of people are listening to it for free. So the budgets and the record deals all went down with the declining sales. And so unless you're a pretty big band, you can't really make a living out of recorded music anymore, because the majority of people will listen to your record for free on Spotify, on YouTube. I mean, yeah, you get micro pennies in return. So the days of big budgets, big studios, yeah, the technology kind of killed that, but the technology also gave us in return the ability to record at home with the same quality of recording in an expensive studio. So it's not like I can just make an album really cheap. I mean, I've got, I don't know, probably $15,000 worth of microphones on this drum kit. I've got another $10,000-$15,000 worth of equipment, hardware equipment and computers, and $5,000 speakers, and it's not really like, oh well, I can do an album for free. There's a lot of investment, and with drums, you need a good room to record them. You can't really record your drums in a bedroom and expect it to sound really good like a big studio. Yep. So you need to buy a house or a building that you can design to have a big studio sound. So yeah, it's kind of cost free once you bought the house and all the equipment.
Gotcha. And in mind, but still, studios like I don't know. I go to London very often, so I know your country well. Like Abbey Road, and then Real World Studios in Bath, the Peter Gabriel studio I'm referring to, are still very busy. They're all, they're booking on bands. I don't know, pay $10,000 or whatever the amount is to be in the big room, let's say, with the house engineer, and then eventually they need to record an investment. And what happened? I don't know, a band like, King Crimson, let's say, could afford to, let's spend $100,000 to record this new album, right? Yeah. And then eventually, right, the sales, fewer and fewer people are buying CDs, vinyl, and Blu-ray, and they end up selling T-shirt and meet and greet and poster and sign and stuff that have nothing to do with the vinyl that they put together. But unfortunately, that's the way it is, right?
Yeah, not anymore. I mean, in the old days, you would go on tour to promote the album, and now you make an album to promote the tour. So touring is basically your only chance to make a living out of music.
Yeah.
Unless you are quite a big band and you can make money from record sales. If you're King Crimson or Porcupine Tree, you can make money from record sales, but the real money is in playing live, in the merchandise. Yeah, some bands do meet and greet. You just got to do what you do.
I got it. You're right. You say, correctly, to just create a new album or release the best of, or remixes or whatever, and release track just to promote the tour. And the other factor is, at least I don't know how it works in other countries, but here in the United States, when you can, as a musician, right, or as an artist, you need to pay very expensive visa just to enter the country and earn even $1, right? So you need to spend, I don't know, $5,000 a person to just get a working visa to play in the United States. So you need to have X number of shows booked in order to make it work well. Otherwise, you lose money, right?
Yeah, the United States is a difficult country to tour if you're not a big band. I mean, Porcupine Tree, I think we paid about $28,000 for the work permit, for the work visa, just to come to United States.
Yep.
So a smaller band like Pineapple Thief, that's a big struggle for a band that size to make it. okay, it wasn't a problem for Porcupine Tree or King Crimson, but, you know,
With you guys for Pineapple Thief is.
yeah, for Pineapple Thief, it's hard. So I think you need to play probably 300, 500, 600 people a night minimum to be able to tour. And because the United States is such a big country, the towns, the major music towns are so far apart. The only way you can do it is on a tour bus. And the costs have doubled. We went on tour in 2019 for 4 weeks in the USA, and our bus cost $40,000. And now we're coming back to the States for 4 weeks, and the bus is $81,000. So the costs and the hotels and the flights and the visas, the visas have just gone up by 250%. In April, they went up 250%. So, I mean, this is part of the music business, and this is the kind of thing that you get to understand and realize when you're a band member. When you just play for someone and they pay you a weekly fee, you don't care. You don't care what the hotels are costing, how much the bus is costing, how many people are in the audience. It doesn't matter. You get your fee. But when you become a band member, you get to see the costs of it and the practicalities of a band on tour. I don't think people could ever realize the amount of costs that go into it. People complain about ticket prices. You really wouldn't believe what the costs are. And I'm not talking about, 5-star limousine and, the best hotel in town. With Pineapple Thief, we'll be spending most nights trying to sleep on a moving bus.
And then take a shower the morning after in the venue.
In the venue, in the venue.
And then do the laundry somewhere.
Yeah, taking a shower in the local venue, that might be some of the worst experiences you've ever had in your life.
Wow, I believe it. Yeah, that's the real life of the, touring band and so forth. In 2007, if I remember correctly, you had a long-term collaboration with O5 RIC, right? That you released 3 albums, Drop, Circles, and The Man Who Sold Himself. So feel free to elaborate on what memories do you have from there.
Yes, I met Rick. I actually met Rick on MySpace. Do you remember MySpace?
That was like 30 years ago, man.
Yeah. So I met Rick on MySpace, and I listened to some of his music. I thought, God, this guy's so talented. And he was singing and playing bass. He's a really good drummer too. Yeah. So we started to collaborate. We wrote an album together. It was very sort of experimental. It wasn't commercial stuff. And after 3 albums, we said, we've probably got enough material now between all the songs of 3 albums to go on tour. So we did 3 tours of Europe, and it was a very creative time, a very productive time. I had a very good working relationship with Rick as well. So we wrote a lot of, I think, very interesting stuff, a lot of very difficult stuff. And the music was very hard to play, really, I think much harder than some of the things I played with King Crimson. It was a very big challenge to play that stuff live. And when you make very complicated music, you have almost 99% male audience and very few of them. So you play to about 200 people maximum, and maybe 50 people minimum, and about 99% male who like the complexity, the kind of guys who like looking inside an engine or looking inside a watch at all the moving parts. They like They like to see all the complexity happening before them. That's fine, you know. But after 3 tours, we said, I don't see how we could ever make this into a working band that we could fund ourselves. So we stopped after that 3rd record.
I got you. Nowadays, I don't mean to be intrusive, but in general terms, with the reputation that you have with Porcupine Tree, King Crimson, Pineapple Thief, and all the other bands you have played, can you be picky and choosy about who you can work with? Or in terms of, well, I don't need the money that bad, and I don't need to go to Germany, but it so happened that I like Claudio's music, so I want to work with him in a couple of tracks, and then he can do me a favor to help me out in something else. So we don't exchange money, we exchange kind of services. You're still a picky, choosy about who?
Oh yeah, I'm very picky, choosy. I mean, since the 2000s, I stopped wanting to be a session musician because probably a majority of it was music I never really loved. So the luxury of having money is that you can choose who you work with and the music that you make. And that really is the most luxurious use you can make of your money, is to really steer the path of your career, because you don't have to do jobs like in the 80s and 90s when I was broke. I just had to do a job. Now I don't have to do jobs. I don't have to do, probably for the last 20 years, I didn't have to do jobs. So little by little, I stopped doing sessions that I didn't want to do, or playing on records that I didn't like, or turned down tours that I didn't really fancy.
Good for you, man. Good. You know, you are lucky. A lot of people cannot say the same thing. You know, they have to do this, they have to do that. And as you know, during the pandemic, many bands, smaller bands that I like, because I have a wide range of music, they disappear, right? You know, with the pandemic, no tours, so no money coming in, no other jobs, so they went back to school, the band disappeared, or they got other jobs, and unfortunately, that's the life of an artist, right? That's you know, you that's the life you chose, if you will. And in 2008, you end up joining King Crimson as part of the dual drummer with my friend Pat Mastelotto. What memory do you have? Pat is a very nice guy, man. Tony Levin, Pat, they're great people. And Jack also is a very nice. I have met a lot of people. I never met Mr. Free, or probably he will never give an interview, but it's a lot of great musicians there in the King Crimson areas. What memory do you have from the Pat Mastelotto days back in 2008?
Yeah, 2008. Was my first, the first time I joined, or first tour I did with King Crimson.
Yeah,
and it was a pleasure to work with Pat. It's always a pleasure to work with Pat. He's a very nice guy. He's very enthusiastic. He has no ego, so there's no competition. We can just get on and organize the way the two drums are going to play together. And I always enjoyed working with Pat. It was a pleasure to play with him. Tony, I'd been on tour with Tony in 1992 with an Italian artist. So I knew Tony already, and I knew Robert Fripp because he used to open for Porcupine Tree, just doing guitar soundscapes. I think he must have opened for Porcupine Tree like 30, 40, 50 times. And because he saw me play with Porcupine Tree, that's why he invited me to join King Crimson.
I got it. I'm glad that he did. And then I think what, from 2014 to 2021, you were playing Crimson as part of a three drummers. How difficult is when you go to rehearsal with King Crimson to arrange the bar, because never mind one drummer, never mind two, three, where you go back and forth playing and rhythm and harmonies, different part of the particular track, during the night. I imagine that it requires a lot of coordination and rehearsal to get it right?
Yeah.
Because Robert Fripp, he's a precise guy, He will say, I don't like that, let's try it again. No, I don't like that, I don't like it. No, try it again. Okay, yeah, we're going somewhere, right? I imagine it's a lot of hours and hours, right, to get it right.
Yeah, actually, Robert Fripp never said, don't do this, I don't like it. He never said that to me or any of the drummers that I ever witnessed.
Yeah.
I think one of Robert's strengths is as a casting director. He knows which musicians to ask and which musicians to fit together. So the 2014 to 2021 band, I think he was very happy with it because he finally got a new picture of King Crimson, and with musicians that he liked and they liked him. So it was quite a happy atmosphere. There was no bad vibes. Robert wasn't saying, no, don't do this, don't do this. He never said that. He would trust us to do the right thing. So quite often I arrange the drum parts because I have a studio and I can record myself 3 times. So I experimented with different ideas of how 3 drummers can play together. And then in 2014, actually in this room, I had Pat Massalotto set up here and Bill Riflin set up here. And the 3 of us tried the things I'd written and we modified them and we changed them and we found a way that the 3 of us could play together. Each piece was a new challenge. So you can either see it as a difficulty or an opportunity. And I saw it as an opportunity to do things like one drummer with 6 legs and 6 arms. It wasn't like 3 guys all playing the same thing at the same time.
No.
Although that is a sound that many bands have done. But this was really like one drummer with 6 arms and 6 legs. So we wrote some drum pieces and we started to arrange how 3 drummers would play on normal King Crimson songs.
For you, and I think I read somewhere that Robert Fripp is very fair with the musician. Whatever the numbers happen to be is split in equal parts. So, whether you're playing the saxophone or you're the younger musician on the band, all of you get paid the same amount, and royalties are distributed equally, which is good, right? So you got 2 with King Crimson for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and then you are okay for the rest of the year, I suppose. Because King Crimson here, at least in the United States, and it sells well. Every venue is sold out right away, right? So
yeah, it was very successful. Yeah,
good. That happened in 2016. You end up joining Final Thief. I think you were a session drummer for them on the 11th album called Your Wilderness. And then I'm surprised that they didn't offer you the job right away with all the experience, all the background that you have, or
well, in a almost parallel way to Porcupine Tree.
Yeah,
their Pineapple Thief drummer left the band.
Yeah,
and Pineapple Thief singer Bruce Sword said, "Well, I don't know what to do. Maybe we should stop. Maybe we've got to find another drummer." And the record company suggested that he writes to me. In fact, I think he got my phone number from Stephen Wilson. He knows Stephen Wilson. So they asked me to play on their record. I said, okay, look, just send me the songs first, which is what I always say. Send me the song. I don't care about the money or the time, or let's listen to the music first, because if I like the music, I'll make it work. And so he sent me 2 songs and I really, really liked them. And then he sent me some more songs. So I played on the whole album. I didn't meet any of them. And after the album came out, Bruce said, would you consider coming on a short tour with us, and we'll pay you to come on the tour? So they paid me a session fee, and I went on the tour, a short tour, and we filmed the last show in London, and it went really well. And then he said, well, look, would you consider doing another record with us and maybe joining the band and collaborating in the writing and the production and the mixing? And I said, yeah, okay, this will be a nice counterbalance to King Crimson, which I was in. Completely different music. I think life is about balance, really. You've got to just get a good balance, whether it's, normally you either got too much work or not enough work, or you need to find an equilibrium that you can live with. And between King Crimson and Pineapple Thief, musically, it kept me in a balanced place. So we fitted the Pineapple Thief tours around the King Crimson tours. And so for the first 5 years, we carried on. I was working in 2 bands at the same time.
Yeah, and also in Pineapple Thief, you were, different to King Crimson. You were, writing from the beginning, making suggestions. I think you went back to the previous album that they did before you were there and rearranged the stuff, recorded it again, and you provide a lot of great input. So the people there and Pineapple Thief really love you because you provide a lot of new energy, new enthusiasm, revisit old track, and give a new life, if you will, to Pineapple Thief, which is an unbelievable band. So.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, when we went on tour, we played a lot of the songs from Your Wilderness, the record that I just recorded. Yeah. But obviously, that isn't a full concert's worth. So I had to learn maybe 10 other songs from their back catalogue. And Pineapple Thief guys said, look, you don't have to play them like the record. You can rearrange them. So I rearranged some of the songs. And then later, maybe 3 years later, I said, why don't we make an album of songs from your back catalogue that I can rearrange? So I listened through all of their records and I said to Bruce, do you still have the multi-track of this song, this song, this song? And he said, yeah, I've got everything. So he would send me the original multi-track from whichever album. Yeah. And then I would try rearranging it, sometimes quite drastically, sometimes just the drums were different. And that became an album called Give It Back. And it gave us a lot of a new way to play the old songs when we went on tour. In fact, we still play some of those songs now.
Wow, great. Good for you guys, man. Yeah, that's when we met, but when you were in DC, like 3 years ago, I saw you playing live with Pineapple Thief a couple of times. I think back in the day, you ended up authoring 2 instructional drum books, and I think it was a DVD or a Blu-ray, where you for beginners level, you were explaining how to set up a drum and how you go from this step to next step and so forth. Right? You like doing do you teach at the same time? I mean, people can reach out to you or no?
I don't teach at all. The books I wrote, I think the first book came out in 93 or 94. Yeah. And then the second book came out in 97. And then about 2001, I made a DVD, which is basically the lessons from the first book. And then about 2004, I made a second DVD. So that's already 20 years ago. After that, my thoughts were not really about doing educational things. I did a lot of drum clinics. I did a lot of master classes, but I don't have students. I don't give private lessons. It's something that, I'm a student myself. I'm still trying to play the drums to the best of my ability. And I practice every day, and I still have a lot of ideas and develop my own kind of things to practice. So it's an ongoing process. I don't feel like a teacher. I don't feel like I need to teach people. It's just something that was being a professional musician and practicing a lot, you start to recognize some things that are very useful and some things that are very helpful, and creative solutions to your own problems. But if I show you those creative solutions, they might not work for you. They kind of work for me, because over the last 55 years of playing the drums, I've learned how my brain works, how I tick, how I can achieve something, and what is the best way, the best method for me to play something really difficult that I can't play in the beginning. So those things I've kept notes of, and I've made exercises of, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would work with another student.
Gotcha. Man, you are very humble in saying, well, I'm still learning. I don't know if I can teach them, but you're one of the best drummers in the world, to say the least, man. You are very humble. But most people in the UK, they're very humble as compared to people here in the United States. Are you the type of guy that listen to albums that you have, played in, or people that you have worked and you look, man, I wish I have tried that. I wish I had tried that. Or you kind of forget about the past. You're going forward.
Well, mostly going forward. But when I do hear an old album, I always think, yeah, I could play it better now. I've got better ideas now. But it was the best I could do at the time. That's the only thing that's important. Probably I could play In Absentia better if I had to re-record it now. But at the time, in early 2002, that was the best I could do at the time. And that's always the case with anything you create. Later in life, you might look back at it and think, I could have done that better. But, that's a sign that you've improved.
I got you. Good for you, man. That's, we always try to improve and become better at what we do. I read that somewhere that you mentioned that is, at the time, I didn't put that much attention, but I was thinking about that today, and it's very true. I think you mentioned that things happen musically between the ages of 14 and 20 that really shape your musical taste, and you never forget that. And I look at it in my life, and it's so true. I mean, especially when I was 14. I told you before, in South America, when I lived in Chile, at the beginning, when I was a baby, my dad put all jazz and tango for Argentina. I didn't care. I didn't know. But when I was 14, I discovered kind of progressive music, the Genesis of this world, the Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin, and so on. And that created 14, 15, when I bought my first vinyls. It directed me in my life. And it's so true what you say.
I have this feeling that you may be like Genesis.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but yes.
Maybe for the.
So, yeah, I think that, that period from 13, 14 to 20, that period in your life, music means a lot to you, and it really shapes a lot of your preferences about how you like music, how you like performance, how you like composition and mixing and drumming and creativeness. And you always look back to that period for the rest of your life. You look back and think, yeah, that was the best time. And I still listen to those records from that period, and I still absolutely love them. It gives me the same feeling I had when I was 16, when I listened to that record, and I think, wow, it's so wonderful. I was so lucky to find those records that shaped me in that moment in my life where everything was just, you're really taking on board all of the influence of those records.
Yeah, music is a beautiful thing. We live in crazy time with this war and this and Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel. Maybe we are doomed as a human society or whatever, but music, art, poetry, books, still it gives hope for people, So, it's true that, like you say, the prices on seeing gigs and it's very expensive. Well, it's very expensive to do, right? So you need to, charge X number of dollars to see you guys or to see King Crimson or Porcupine Tree or whatever. But there's a lot of cost. But it's music is a beautiful thing. In my case, I don't play an instrument. I don't know how to read music. I have a huge music collection. I see a lot of bands that music has given me a lot of satisfaction. It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm glad that that the music exists. Do you get involved with let's say with the lyrics in Porcupine Tree, or Stevie Wilson is the one that end up writing most of the lyrics, and then you can just contribute to the whole track or the whole album without getting involved in the lyrics?
Yeah, I never get involved in the lyrics.
Yeah,
there's a very special talent to writing good lyrics, and it's something that I know I don't want to be involved in. So I've never said to, I don't think I've ever said to any singer, that line, I don't really like that line. Could you change this line? Do you maybe with Bruce Sword, I've said to him, I love this lyric is so good. Could that come back later in the song? Or could we use that lyric at the very end of the song? It's so nice. So no, I never get involved in the lyrics.
Yeah, I understand. Looking back in your life, any, perhaps growing up, any have you ever had like a big heroes on the drum department that you look back in my life, man, that person made a big impact on me, when I was 16 or 17 or whatever?
Oh yeah, of course. Lots of drummers. And they kind of shape your preferences later in life. I think there are experiences you have, you put on a record the first time you hear a certain drummer and it has a really powerful effect on you. You kind of store it in the back of your head, and many years later, you might be working on a song and it reminds you a little bit of that record or something about it, the sound or the tempo or the groove or just something about it. And then you think, oh yeah, I really like this. And I don't know why, but it was something that you heard a long time ago when you were a teenager, and you just love that sound. Of course, there were lots of musicians who shaped my influence, or influenced me. I mean, I saw a lot of drummers play live, and that was always a great experience. And I listened to a lot of records that had Steve Gadd, and that really influenced me. And they all still do. There's still things that I remember that, I might play something on the drums and think, yeah, that sounds a bit like, Simon Phillips from 1980. And wow. I love that. So, yeah, all the drummers I listened to in that period and after that period have all had an influence on me for sure.
Okay. Is it possible for, stupid question, at your level to, if I don't show you the album, the vinyl or the song, because if you recognize the song, that might be that guy. If I show you like 5 to 10 different drum tracks to you to recognize, well, that could be very likely that Steve Gadd versus Cyborg versus Antonio Sanchez versus Paul Vertigo or Mastelotto and so forth. Can you tell the kind of the differences?
I'd like to think I could.
Wow.
But no one's ever tested me really.
Yeah.
If it was music that I knew, then obviously it would be easy. But if you played me a track of, let's say, Jeff Porcaro, and I had never heard the track before, I think possibly I could still tell you, yeah, that really sounds like Jeff Porcaro to me.
Wow. Unbelievable, man. I don't have that talent well because I'm not a musician to begin with. Looking back in your life, is something, or going in the future, is something or another band that you would like to collaborate with because you like the music it bring you memories from the childhood or whatever, or the music resonate with you, that is any particular band or trio or whatever that you wish you could work with for, I don't know, as a fantasy because the music resonate with you or
Oh yeah, there's lots of bands that I think, oh, I'd love to play with them. And more recently, in the last sort of 10 years, I've done a lot of collaborations where I meet a musician and I play on their record, like Antoine Fafard or Gleb Kalydin, the Russian piano player. He's amazing. Yeah. And more recently, I've started a collaboration with Nick Johnston. He's a Canadian guitar player, and I played on one of his solo albums about 2016, 2015, I don't know. And then I played on another one of his albums, which hasn't come out yet. And he said, we should collaborate and do an album together. So for the last maybe 6 months, I've been doing that. And that's really great fun to work with Nick. He's a very exciting guitar player. And that's more or less what I've ended up doing, is just making collaborations with people, because I'm less inclined to just make sessions for money. So I'm looking for writing partners and people that inspire me to, keep pushing my own playing forward and to think of new ways I can perform on the instrument.
Any interest for you to work with directors or be part of film score for movies or theater stuff? Do you have an interest in doing that kind of stuff?
I would be interested, but no one's ever asked me to write a film score or music for a theater. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, Stewart Copeland, of course, had done a lot of stuff after the Police broke up or finished, whatever, and he enjoyed that kind of stuff. Talking about the other activities, what's going on with King Crimson? If you could tell, what I heard is that is done. King Crimson is very unlikely to tour again unless X number of dollars were to be on the table or a special occasion or something. That's what I have heard, right?
I don't think it would be a matter of money. I think it would be a matter of whether Robert Fripp had a big idea. And he's very, very good at that. I think I learned a lot from Robert. It's really important that you have a good idea, a big idea that's going to work. And that's what Robert has had throughout the history of King Crimson. Mm-hmm. His big idea in 2013 was this band that played from 2014 to 2021. the three drummers at the front of the stage, the other musicians, Robert, Jacko, Tony, and Mel Collins on a riser behind us. Robert could see that in his head, and when he called me in 2013, he said, "I've had a vision. I can see a new King Crimson." And when we got to Japan in 2021, he said, "Okay, this project is completed." That doesn't mean it's the end of King Crimson necessarily. Yeah. He might have another idea. I don't think it would be a question of, "Oh, here's a lot of dollars. Will you come back and play one more show?" I really don't think Robert thinks like that at all. It would have to have a real interesting musical reason for it to exist again.
Yeah, that's very right. I hope he find a new idea, and hopefully we'll see fans all over the world can see King Crimson. I saw them many times, and I saw play here in DC and the Anthem. It's a very beautiful theater as well. That I have a great time there. Steven Wilson is going to be touring next year. No, as a Porcupine Tree. That's my understanding. Are you going to be touring with him? If you could share that, or no? No. Yeah. I think he already has his musicians. I've never toured with Steve, as you know, when he's done his solo tours. Yeah, he's touring Europe, and then hopefully he will come to the United States to play here. Let's talk a little bit about Antoine Fafard. I interviewed him recently, and of course the two of you work in perpetual mutation as well as chemical reaction, and I really like the stuff. It's very, very different from other music. I mean, I listen to a lot of, and I follow, I don't know, probably 200, 300 different bands, but I came across his music, and I gave him a call. We set up a couple interviews with him, and actually, no, one interview with him. And then, I noticed, obviously, you were there, and I listened to the album very carefully. It's great music, and I'm glad that you collaborate with him. What memory do you have from the first album and the second album? Because I think the first one took longer because obviously you are busy playing with other band, you were touring, so an album that to be, plus I think his music is complex, and he wanted for you to do this and another musician to do that, and so on. So it takes long for a record to be released. The first record, Chemical Reactions, it started off as an experiment that Antoine did with an orchestra, and he recorded 2 pieces with an orchestra, and he played it to me, and I said, "Oh, I could put some drums on that," and that went really well. But I don't think it was practical to do a whole album with an orchestra. So he had an idea to write some pieces for string quartet and bass and drums. And that was musically very interesting kind of direction. And after we finished Chemical Reactions, Antoine said, "Let's try to do another record." And we talked about unusual instrumentation, and he wrote I think about 9 pieces, and there's kind of some quite unusual players playing together, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of interesting musical challenge. I do like that. And probably we will carry on and try something else in the future. Good for you. Do you listen to a lot of music, no yours or no musician that hired to do music when you are at home, when you drive to a supermarket or whatever? Are you always consuming music and buying music? Sometimes. I mean, I of course I always go back and listen to the music I listened to as a teenager. Yeah. So if I'm driving to a supermarket
the supermarket's only 5 minutes away, so I can only hear one song.
or when you go and driving to see your family or brothers.
Yeah, but I don't really go anywhere in my car. Just local trips. So if I go on a long journey, I will, listen to some albums. But yeah, I hear all sorts of things, and I listen to bands. People suggest things to me, and I go and listen to them. I don't, because I'm usually working on a project or I'm getting ready for a tour. I tend to concentrate on that more than just relaxing, listening for pleasure.
I got it. Talking about a tour, you are going to be touring, obviously with Pineapple Thief. I think the tour started November 10th. You're going to Santiago, Chile, and then 4 days later, Atlanta, and then Georgia, and then going to be touring in United States. And feel free to elaborate when you talked before we began recording that. People obviously in Brazil love your music, and people in Argentina love the music, but it's very expensive to move all the equipment, your track and the guitar, the keyboard, from one city to another. And then, Brazil is far away, so you need to catch another flight and move the equipment. Yeah, you will be losing a lot of money, right? So breaking even will be great. Not making money, breaking even will be great, and then make the money somewhere else, but losing thousands of dollars on a daily basis, obviously going from one city to another, unsustainable, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's one thing playing a tour and coming home with nothing. It's another thing playing a tour and coming home where you have to go to your bank and take out tens of thousands of dollars to pay for the tour. That's even harder. In United States, to go from one big town to another could be 7, 8, 9, 10-hour drive. In South America, to go from one big town to another, you're talking about a flight. And if you're talking about a flight, then you've got baggage problems. You can't take your drum kit on the plane. You're going to have to get a drum kit in every country, every city you go to. There's a lot of complications to that. So I will be getting a drum kit in Santiago, Chile, but I've been working on it for months with my drum company and with a company in Chile to try to get a drum set as close as possible to the drum kit I normally play. It's not the sort of music where I can just show up and play any old drum kit. I need a specific kind of drum kit, a very high quality drum kit, and the cymbals and the pedals and all the other things that I need to play the music to the best of my ability. So on this tour, we're playing Santiago, Chile, and we're also playing Mexico City. So those two cities, I've been working for many months on making sure the equipment that I need is there. Luckily, in the United States, I have a drum set permanently stored, which is a replica of the kit I normally use. So I don't have that problem in touring the United States, unless the first show is in Tampa, Florida, and my drums might be in Seattle. Then you're looking at about $2,500 to $3,000 to have your drums driven from Seattle all the way down to Tampa. And then at the end of the tour, it depends where you leave your equipment. At the moment, my equipment is stored in Nashville, which is pretty central. So but you never start in America, you never start a tour and end it in the same place. You nearly always start on the East Coast and end on the West Coast. So there's all kinds of logistical issues in trying to get your drum set where you need it in America.
I got you. I only have a couple questions left or so. In February of this year, you end up releasing a new album with Pineapple Thief called It Leads to This. It's a great album as well. People really like. Well, I don't know if I could say that, but Pineapple Thief is it's well known here in the States, right? It's not as big as the Porcupine Tree or the King Crimson of this world, but you every show that I think it's sold out. You guys do okay here. It's not like 5,000 people will show up, but at least a couple thousand people will go to see you guys playing live every night, and you have an audience here, and the music is great.
Yeah, I really like it. And also we have an EP coming out on the 8th of November, which is 5 songs we recorded for It Leads to This. And they're 5 really good songs, but they didn't fit together with the other 8 songs that we have on on the album. So we are going to release this EP on November the 8th. That's the kind of final piece of the puzzle of It Leads to This album cycle.
Yeah, hopefully you can. Easy for me to say Creeder 3 or 4, and then release and make an EP into an album. It's easy for me to say.
No, we'll start work on another record. I don't know, probably next year.
Yeah. So you're going to be married, and a couple of questions left. How can I say this? For me, not being a drummer, how do you draw the line between your own sound versus technique? In other words, I don't know if I'm asking the correct question, but some people are very technical in the drum department, but the sound is kind of not there. It's not cohesive, right? As opposed to some people can have a good feeling, a good rhythm, the time is correct, but in the technical department, they are not that great. It's you have both.
Oh, good.
If you will,
I was wondering which way I was going to be listed there. Well, thanks.
And you are probably one of the best drummers in the world, man. So it's great. Your music is great, and you have worked and collaborated with the best musicians in the world. So I'm glad that we have you, and thank you very much, Gavin, to talk to you. And I will see you in DC when you play here, a couple of months, and hopefully we'll do another follow-up interview when you have time, and we can perhaps concentrate in different areas because I may have a lot of questions about that. But it was very nice talking to you. You're, like many British people and many people, you're very humble, quiet, and unassuming, as opposed to people in the United States. That, so you're a good guy, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a
nice
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.